AITA for refusing to help my family after they chose my brother over me and lost everything? I'm 32 years old. I work in cybersecurity for a startup that has grown exponentially in recent years. I need to tell this story because I recently closed a life-changing deal and finally realized I made the right decision about 6 years ago when I cut off all contact with my family. I guess I should start at the beginning, when I was a kid and my brother Noah was born, because that's when everything started to change. At the time, I didn't understand anything. I was about 5 and just excited to have a little brother. The thing is, ever since Noah arrived, my parents acted as if he were a prodigy destined for greatness. I don't know how to explain it well, but it was like I simply ceased to exist for them. When I brought home a report card with all A's from school, my mom would say something like, "Oh, that's nice, Ethan." But when Noah learned to use the toilet by himself at age 3, they practically threw a party. My dad had always wanted to be a doctor, but he never could. His family didn't have the money to send him to college back then. Ever since Noah was born, he started this obsession that my brother was going to be the doctor he never was. To this day, I remember hearing him say, "This kid has surgeon's hands," when Noah was literally 4 years old and playing with Lego blocks. I grew up basically being invisible in my own house. My parents went to all of Noah's soccer games, all his school plays, but when I won the district science fair in 6th grade, my mom said she couldn't go because she had to take Noah to the dentist. When I asked if she couldn't reschedule the appointment, she looked at me as if I were the selfish one. She told me, "Your brother's health is important, Ethan. Don't be like that." What could I say? I was 11 and already used to things being that way. In high school, things got worse. I was good at math and science. I loved technology. I spent hours teaching myself to code because the computer classes at my public school were a joke. Noah, on the other hand, was a terrible student. He got C's and D's constantly, but my parents always had excuses. It was the teacher's fault. The other kids were a bad influence. He needed a special tutor. They paid for private tutors for him for years, hundreds of dollars a month, while they told me they couldn't help me pay for a programming course that cost about $200 because money was tight. 2 weeks later, they bought Noah a new laptop because his was too slow, according to him. The time came to apply to colleges, and I worked like crazy to get scholarships because I knew my parents weren't going to help pay for my education. All the family savings were reserved for Noah to go to an expensive pre-med program. I applied to about 15 different universities. I wrote countless essays. I stayed up all night studying for the SAT. When the acceptance letter arrived telling me I had gotten a full scholarship to study computer science at a pretty good university, I didn't even show it to my parents right away. I waited until dinner. I had this foolish hope that they would finally be proud of me. My mom read the letter. She said, "That's good, Ethan." And then, in the same breath, she turned to Noah and started talking to him about which top-tier medical schools he should start thinking about for the future. My dad didn't even read it. He just nodded and kept eating. That night, I cried in my room, and I know it sounds pathetic for a 17-year-old guy, but I just couldn't take it anymore. My Aunt Diane, my mom's sister, was the only one who truly congratulated me when she found out. She called me and said, "I'm so proud of you. Your hard work paid off." She was the only person in my family who acted like what I had achieved mattered. I went to college and honestly, it was the first time I felt free. No one was comparing me to Noah. No one was ignoring me. I was just Ethan, and that was enough. I dove headfirst into my classes. I started doing programming projects in my free time. I got a part-time job in the university's IT department. It was during my sophomore year that I met Lauren. She worked at the Starbucks near campus. She was smart, funny, we just clicked. We started dating, and for the first time in my life, I felt like someone really saw me. We had been dating for about 6 months when I told her I wanted her to meet my parents. She was excited, I was nervous, but I thought maybe this time would be different. I talked to my mom on the phone. I told her I had a girlfriend and wanted to bring her over for dinner one weekend. My mom said they were very busy, maybe another time. 3 months went by. She kept postponing. There was always an excuse. Meanwhile, Noah had started dating a girl in his senior year of high school, and my parents treated her like she was part of the family. They hosted special dinners. My mom went shopping with her at the mall. I finally brought Lauren over unannounced. We just showed up one Sunday afternoon. My parents were polite, but cold. They did the bare minimum. Lauren noticed, obviously. In the car on the way back to her apartment, she asked me if she had done something wrong, and I had to explain that it wasn't her, it was me. It was that I had never been enough for them, and probably never would be. She hugged me and told me that her family would love me. And they did. Her parents treated me better than my own parents ever had. 2 more years passed. I graduated with honors. I got a good job offer at a tech company. I was making my own money. Noah had managed to get into some random university with the bare minimum acceptable grades. My parents practically had to make sizable donations to get him accepted, but he got in. My dad was over the moon. He talked all the time about how his son was going to be a doctor, as if I didn't exist. I didn't even try to call them anymore. I only talked to my Aunt Diane, who kept me updated on everything. I decided to propose to Lauren. We had been together for almost 4 years. I was sure she was the person I wanted to spend my life with. I saved for months to buy a decent ring. Nothing super fancy, but nice and meaningful. I proposed to her at the place where we first met, that Starbucks near campus. And she said yes. I was so happy. I felt my life was finally going in the right direction. I told my parents about the engagement, expecting nothing. But surprisingly, my mom seemed excited. She said she wanted to host an engagement dinner, that Lauren should go dress shopping with her, that whole thing. I was confused, but also a little hopeful. Maybe they were finally going to act like a normal family. Lauren went to their house for dinner about 3 times that month. My mom called her constantly. My dad even asked about the wedding date. Noah was there at those dinners too. He had just come home for the summer after his first year of college. 2 months after the engagement, Lauren asked me to meet her. There was something odd in her voice on the phone. She sounded nervous, scared, even. We met at a park near her apartment, and before I could say anything, she started crying. She told me, "I'm pregnant." For a second, my brain tried to process that as good news, even though we weren't planning on having kids yet. But then she kept talking and said, "It's Noah's." The world stopped. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I asked her, "What do you mean it's Noah's?" She told me everything between sobs, that they had started talking at those dinners, that he would text her, that they met a few times in secret, that their inappropriate relationship had crossed a line, that she was so sorry, that it was a terrible mistake. I just sat there, feeling like someone had ripped my heart out of my chest. I finally asked if my parents knew, and she nodded. She said Noah had told them last week that they wanted to talk to me, but didn't know how. I drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't even knock. I walked in and found the 3 of them in the living room, Noah, my mom, and my dad. My mom started with, "Ethan, son, we need to talk about this calmly." But I exploded. I yelled at them. I told them everything I had held in for years. I asked them how they could just sit there acting like this was something that could be resolved with a conversation. My dad told me to stop being dramatic, that these things happen, that Noah didn't plan it, and neither did Lauren. My mom added that we should think about the baby, that it was my nephew or niece, that family was the most important thing. I couldn't believe it. I screamed at Noah. I asked him why. What had I ever done to deserve this? He just cried. He kept saying he was sorry over and over, as if that would fix anything. My mom took his side immediately. She said I was being cruel to my brother, that he already felt bad enough. My dad said something I will never forget. He said, "Maybe you should just let Lauren go, Ethan. Clearly, she and Noah have something special if this happened." Something broke in me in that moment. I realized I would never be enough for them, that they could justify anything Noah did, no matter how much it hurt me. I told the 3 of them that they were no longer my family and that I never wanted to see them again. My mom started crying. My dad told me I was being immature. Noah kept apologizing. I walked out of that house, and despite the pain, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I went back to my apartment and packed all my things in 2 days. I called Lauren, told her I never wanted to see her again, and that any future communication would have to be through lawyers if necessary. I blocked her number. I blocked my parents' numbers, Noah's, everyone's, except my Aunt Diane's. She called me that week. She said she understood my decision, that she would do the same in my place, and that she would always be there if I needed her. I asked her not to tell me anything about them, that I needed to move on completely, but she insisted that one day I might want to know. I threw myself into work like a man possessed. I coded 12, 14 hours a day. I focused only on learning more, on being better. The pain was there all the time, but I used it as fuel. I started specializing in cybersecurity. I was fascinated by the idea of protecting systems, of finding vulnerabilities before anyone else did. A year after cutting contact, I got an offer from a small startup in another city. It was just 6 people working out of a garage, basically. But the project sounded incredible, and the founder was brilliant. I moved without a second thought. My Aunt Diane would call me every couple of months. She would give me updates, even though I had told her I didn't want them. One day she told me that Noah had failed his first major exams in his pre-med program. A few months later, she told me he had been put on academic probation. 6 months after that, she called to tell me he had been officially expelled. He had wasted about $80,000 of my parents' money on 2 years of college and had nothing to show for it. I felt nothing when she told me. I expected to feel satisfaction, but I just felt empty. Meanwhile, I was growing in my job. The startup began to take off. We got venture capital funding. We hired more people. I became the leader of the security team. I was making good money. I had my own apartment. I was dating someone new I met at a tech conference. My life was finally going well without my family dragging me down. Every day that passed, I felt more certain that I had made the right choice. My aunt told me that Lauren and Noah had tried to make things work, but they broke up when the baby was about a year old. Noah couldn't hold a job. He was living with my parents again. Lauren had moved in with her parents. My parents had to sell their big house and move into a smaller condo because their savings were destroyed between Noah's college tuition and supporting him afterward. My dad had to postpone his retirement. A small part of me felt pity, but a much larger part thought they deserved it. 3 years later, my aunt told me that Noah had tried to start a business with a multi-level marketing company selling supplements. My parents had given him more money to start, about $10,000 they didn't have. He failed and lost everything. Then he tried selling used cars, and that failed too. My parents were running out of money, faster and faster. They were in debt up to their eyeballs. My mom had to go back to work full-time at 58. For years after I cut off all contact, my phone rang with an unknown number. I don't usually answer, but something made me pick up. It was my mom. She didn't even say hello. She just started crying and saying, "Ethan, please, we need help. Your father is sick. Noah doesn't have a job again. We have no money, please." I asked her how she got my number. Apparently, my Aunt Diane had given it to her after they begged her for months. My mom told me everything, as if I didn't already know, that my dad had serious heart problems, that he needed expensive medication their insurance barely covered, that Noah still couldn't keep a job, that Lauren barely helped with any money for the grandson I had never met. She asked me to lend them money, to help them pay off their medical bills and debts, that I was her family and families help each other. I asked her where that logic was when Noah got my fiancée pregnant, when she defended him, when she told me to just let it go. She was silent. I told her no, that I had built my life without them and I didn't need their drama again. She called me selfish. She told me my dad could have another major health event, that Noah was my brother no matter what. I told her he stopped being my brother the day he betrayed me, and they stopped being my parents the day they chose to defend him instead of comforting me. I hung up and blocked that number too. My Aunt Diane called me a few days later. She told me I had done the right thing, that I shouldn't feel guilty, that they had made their bed and now they had to lie in it. The next 2 years were the best of my life professionally. Our startup closed a huge deal with an insurance company, a multi-million-dollar contract. We expanded, opened offices in 3 cities. I became the CTO with a salary I never imagined earning. I bought my own house, nothing extravagant, but mine, paid for. I started dating someone seriously who I knew from the tech community, someone who understood my work, who supported me, who didn't bring drama into my life. My aunt called me about 6 months ago to tell me my dad had passed away. He had another cardiac event, this one fatal. She told me the funeral was in 3 days, that my mom wanted me to be there. I told her I wasn't going, that I had closed that door 6 years ago and wasn't going to open it now. She understood. She asked if I felt anything, and I told her honestly that I didn't know. The man who died was basically a stranger to me at this point. I didn't go to the funeral. I stayed home, worked on a new project, and went out to dinner with my partner. My aunt sent me pictures afterward. I don't know why. Maybe she thought I'd want to see them. Noah looked destroyed. My mom too. There were maybe 20 people at the funeral. I felt nothing looking at those pictures, absolutely nothing. And that told me everything I needed to know about whether I had made the right decision. Last week, We closed another massive deal, the biggest in our company's history. I was in the meeting with the CEO and the investors. We signed the papers and toasted with champagne. That night, I drove home, sat in my backyard, and thought about everything that had happened. I thought about that 5-year-old boy who just wanted his parents to see him, about the teenager who studied like crazy for a scholarship only to be ignored, about the 23-year-old who had his heart broken in the worst possible way. And then I thought about the 32-year-old man I am now, successful, stable, and at peace. I don't regret anything. People sometimes ask me if I have siblings, and I say no. If I ever have children, they won't know their grandparents, because their grandparents chose not to be a part of my life long before I chose not to be a part of theirs. My Aunt Diane is the only family I have, and I have friends who are more family than my blood relatives ever were. Sometimes I wonder how Noah and my mom are doing. If Noah will ever get his life in order, if my mom regrets how she handled everything. But they're just passing thoughts. They don't keep me up at night. My aunt told me recently that my mom is still living in that small condo, that Noah still lives with her, that he works in retail earning minimum wage, and that my nephew, who I've never met, is about 7 years old now. I didn't feel anything hearing that either. What I do know is that I made the right decision 6 years ago when I walked out of that house and decided I deserved better. I deserved a family that saw me, that valued me, that didn't constantly compare me to someone else. And when I didn't find that family in the people who were supposed to give it to me, I built my own life without them. It's not the life I imagined as a kid, but it's a good life. It's my life, and I'm finally at peace with that. Comment. I know this story touches on some really difficult themes. For me, it's a powerful reminder that our worth is not defined by the validation we receive from others. Sometimes, the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is to set boundaries and stick to them. Choosing to leave a situation that consistently causes you pain is not failure. It is a profound act of self-respect. True healing begins when we take responsibility for our own peace and happiness. We have the power to build our own chosen family, bound by kindness and mutual respect. The goal is not to watch others fall, but to rise and find our own quiet strength. Always remember that you are worthy of love, respect, and a peaceful life. Thank you for being here and sharing this space with me. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.